Guys, Winter Kills here. Welcome back to a brand new and updated deck profile for the pure Mekk-Knight deck here in December of 2019 / January 2020. Hope you guys are looking forward to the update. But speaking of updates, one thing I want to mention as far as a major change that I'm going to be making towards deck profiles in 2020 is I want to focus more on quality over frequency. Because instead of trying to churn out regular updates where there might not be many changes to the deck, I really want to focus on bringing out an update for specific reasons, whether because the deck has changed because of either a new set, a new deck list, or in this case coming this year, Master Rule revisions, things like that. You guys probably won't see updates if the build hasn't changed too much, because it is just kind of hard to throw out quality updates, in my opinion, while trying to balance one main competitive deck that I play right now, which is Block Dragon BA, and also try to be able to have the time and devote the time sort of into other decks to be able to make them ready for updates as things like that. So gonna try to focus on getting more quality updates as opposed to frequent updates out to you guys in 2020. Just wanted to get that across. So yeah, without further ado, we'll get started into the deck profile portion of the video. And again, a quick shout out to Imperium Duelist if you guys are interested in picking up this amazing 2-player cloth playmat or any of these sleeves that I'm using here on the main deck or extra deck. Don't forget to check them out down in the description below and use that discount code WinterKills10 off to save 10% off your entire order. And if you want to pick up a deck like this on TCG Player or any other singles or sealed product, don't forget to use my affiliate link to TCG Player down in the description below also. Just a few ways to help support the channel. So now to get started with the deck profile, we have 3 copies of Mekk-Knight Purple Nightfall, 3 copies of Mekk-Knight Blue Sky, 2 copies of Mekk-Knight Indigo Eclipse, 1 Mekk-Knight Red Moon, 1 Mekk-Knight Yellow Star, 1 Mekk-Knight Green Horizon, and 1 Mekk-Knight Abram, and that rounds out the Mekk-Knight lineup. Moving forward, we have our 2 dedicated normal summons in the form of Aperia. And then we have some hand traps because this is a dominantly going second deck. These hand traps consist of 2 Fantastical Dragon Phantasme, 2 Ash Blossom and Joyous String, 2 DD Crow, and of course a hand trap if you want to count it, Gamma Seal, the Sea Turtle Kaiju, because we want a lot of interruption for going second. Next, we have our spell lineup here. That is it for the monsters. 3 World Legacies Memory, 2 copies of Mind Control, still that 2 copies of Galaxy Cyclone, 2 copies of Instant Fusion, 1 World Legacy Succession, 1 Upstart Goblin, 1 World Legacy Key, 2 copies of World Legacy Secrets, 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence, and 2 copies of Paleozoic Dynamiscus to round out the main deck. Now we'll take a look at the extra deck. We'll start with the links, the big bad link 4s consisting of Borolo Dragon, Boral Sword Dragon, got them mixed up, Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avermax, Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Mekk-Knight Spectrum Supreme, 3 copies of Mekk-Knight of the Morning Star, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Salamangreat Almirage, 1 Link Karibo, 1 Link Spider, 1 Dingirsu, the Orchest of the Evening Star, and 1000 Eyes Restrict. And that rounds off the 15-card extra deck. Now we'll go ahead and talk about the card rules. So with the starter cards here, we have the 3 copies of Purple Nightfall, the Blue Skies, etc., etc. But yeah, these are our starter cards. These are the cards that we want to see a majority of the time in our opening hand and start our plays off with these cards, because they help get our engine going and they oftentimes have the easiest, in quotes, activation requirement. Now, this is a going second deck, so a lot of these cards have more value going second than they do going first, which is sort of a testament to the quality of the starter cards in of themselves, which is the case most of the time with some going second decks. But Mekk-Knight is a deck that can play first if need be, although your cards like Blue Sky will be a little less valuable, but doesn't mean they can't be made live with certain choices made into the main deck. But again, blind going second with this deck works absolutely fantastic. So all the Mekk-Knights have the same summoning stipulation, which is you can special summon them from the hand into a column where 2 or more cards are in that same column. So for example, if we had a card up here in the extra monster zone and a set spell or trap down here in the spell and trap zone, you could summon a Mekk-Knight here because there are 2 cards in the same column, and one of the cards could be on our opponent's side of the field, both of them could be on our side of the field, or they can both be on our opponent's side of the field. So that's how we go ahead and summon any Mekk-Knight. Now, Purple Nightfall is hands down the best Mekk-Knight because he of course has that same summoning condition, but he can banish a Mekk-Knight you control to be able to add a different Mekk-Knight from your deck to your hand than himself. So you can add a blue sky, you can add an indigo, you can add a red moon, a yellow star, an Avram, or a green horizon, whichever one you want. Technically searches out the entire deck, so allows us to sort of add more resources to our hand to further extend. Mekk-Knight blue sky, again, same summoning mechanic, but when he is special summoned, you can add Mekk-Knights up to your deck to your hand, up to the number of cards that were in the column that it was special summoned in that your opponent controls. So if your opponent has 2 cards in the same column and you special summon it in that column, you can add 2 Mekk-Knights. If they have 3, you can add 3 Mekk-Knights. If they have 1, you can add 1 Mekk-Knight. If they have none, of course, you can add 0. But still, this card is absolutely a powerhouse of a card, especially when going second. An amazing starter card. And sometimes, in more cases, you can start your turn with blue instead of purple, because this card can force out a lot of negations. So if they leave a column, they're an unsuspecting player not trying to play around Mekk-Knights, you can just summon the blue sky and perhaps try to get away with a free, 2 or even 3 searches in some cases, and really make them pay the price or have to burn a negation right then and there. Now, World Legacy's Memory is a really nice card because it helps sort of diminish what going first plays can be, because this helps to sort of e-telly out any Mekk-Knight. But the turn you play it, you are locked into Mekk-Knights only, which isn't a huge restriction because there are a lot of great Mekk-Knight monsters in the extra deck that we'll go into later. And even if you do have to go first, you can still end on a pretty minimal board that is pretty potent for your opponent to have to play through if they don't know how to play around Mekk-Knights, again. And sometimes that can still be very hard to do, even if they have a good knowledge of how to do so. But it's a quick play spell, and you can use it to, again, summon any Mekk-Knight from your hand or deck in defense position and return it to the hand during the end phase. And while you summon it and use this effect, you cannot summon Mekk-Knights for the rest of the turn, or you cannot summon anything other than Mekk-Knights for the rest of the turn. Special summon monsters except Mekk-Knights. So it doesn't lock you out of the Aperia. This card is just amazing. So yeah, it's great. You can use it in combination with the trap and some of the other spells that we're playing that we'll show later. But yeah, absolutely amazing card. Gets a Mekk-Knight on board, which can get you purple, which can get you blue, which can get you more cards, etc., etc. So, and then we have Aperia. Basically, it says if it's summoned, you get to draw a card. So that works fantastic. It replaces itself and allows you to link, more importantly, into Salamangreat Almirage, which can help you get a card up here in your extra monster zone, which is pivotal, because that can help you create a column on your own, completely independent of what your opponent does, which gives this deck a lot of free range to be able to play going first, which a lot of people think is its downfall. And if it has to go first, it can't do anything, which could not be more incorrect, because of cards like this, etc., etc. So yeah, that is it for the starter cards. Again, a lot of the Mekk-Knight cards have cross role compatibility, which means they can fit into multiple roles in the deck. These cards don't just have to be the starter cards, they can act as superior extenders also. I wouldn't say additional, but use in most all cases would be superior. Alright, so now we are on to the superior extenders. Now again, some of these cards could also be considered starters depending on how the turn plays out, and how the play style of the deck is played. But in most cases, they can be viewed as the superior extender cards. So we have the Instant Fusions, the World Legacy Succession, and then the sort of the rest of the Mekk-Knights. Indigo Eclipse is like the perfect example of what a superior extender does. Of course, all the Mekk-Knights still having the same summoning mechanic, of course, except for Avram. He is just normal summonable. He is a vanilla, so does not have that effect, of course. But Indigo Eclipse, again, can be summoned to the same column that 2 or more cards are in, but then also has the effect to quick effect move any Mekk-Knight that you control into a different zone. So basically what you can do is summon him and move him over to make that column open again to summon another Mekk-Knight, quite literally making more room for more plays. So this card is absolutely fantastic in that regard and definitely needs to be played at 2. I think 3 might be a little too much and 1 is definitely not enough. Now, Mekk-Knight, Red Moon, Yellow Star, and Green Horizon, they all have very specific effects on their own that we'll talk about later in different roles, but simply for them just being other names that we can search off of purple and blue, they add to our overall plays that we start upon, being able to search them out, summon them to the board, and make bigger link plays and possibly push for game. So that's why they simply fit in this category, disregarding what their effects are at the time being, because we'll talk about their effects and how they implement into different roles. Now, Avram, of course, is the Manila Mekk-Knight. It can be considered a starter as well, simply because it is a normal summon, and your normal summon can do a lot for you in this deck by turning on all of your Mekk-Knights, by being able to give you a column turn 1, you know, being able to link into Link Spider and then setting a card, allowing you to summon your purple and your indigos and things like that, which is very important. So you could very easily pair this into the starting category if you wanted to. But I like to view it as an additional or superior or even additional extender because it is searchable off of your purple and your blue sky, which is a searchable normal summon, which is really great. You can normal it to help again, you know, Link climb into bigger Link monsters. Of course, World Legacy Succession, a searchable monster born off of our Link 2. So again, an amazing extender by just how it is. And then we have the 2 Instant Fusion. This card exceedingly better once Master Rule 5 drops. And of course, still is a very good superior extender. It could also be viewed as additional, but can basically help to make Thousand Eyes Restrict essentially as our only target, take a card, and then create our own column with those 2 cards. Or even as going first, this could also technically be viewed as a starter. If you're really desperate for a column, you can use Instant Fusion to go for Thousand Eyes Restrict, link them off into a Link Rebo, set another card, and get yourself a column. But a lot of the cases, this will be used as a superior or even additional extender. So this is one of those cards alongside cards like Avram that have multiple roles into the deck. And of course, any deck that we've talked about in the past that has multiple roles is a really strong deck because it's a bit more versatile in what it's able to do. So now we'll go ahead and take a look at the additional extenders. Okay, so again, for the additional extender category, I'll just pull out some niche things, but one thing I want to mention for the additional extenders is really, again, any Mekk-Knight can sort of fall into this category because the overall scheme of this deck is to flood the field with Mekk-Knights, dismantle the opponent's board, first by abusing it based on their card placement and things like that, but simply just flooding the fields with Mekk-Knights is basically the game plan of this deck. And if the OTK doesn't go through, you can follow up by establishing a really strong board that can lock out the opponent from being able to play. So yeah, a very versatile strategy. But again, any of the Mekk-Knights can sort of follow up as an additional extender alongside Superior. Mind Control is a great example of an extender card that can also be a removal card. It does that job very, very well, as we know. But basically, your main extra deck monster, Morningstar, basically requires 2 monsters, including a Mekk-Knight. So basically, if you set the Mind Control, summon a Mekk-Knight, flip up the Mind Control to take the opponent's monster, and then link off into a Morningstar, you've just used this to essentially extend your plays and get yourself free link fodder. World Legacy Key here does not only turn off trap cards, but it allows you to add back a banished World Legacy or Mekk-Knight card back to your hand, which you can use to not only, like I said, lock off traps, but be able to get yourself another column, add back banished resources, and keep playing. So again, absolutely incredible card. And Green Horizon for a few things. Again, not only is it a body that you can summon out to make more plays with, but it also has the effect where once per turn, when this card but basically has the effect that says when an attack is declared involving this card and an opponent's monster in this card's column, you can target 1 Mekk-Knight monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So this card is really nice for resource recursion, which is definitely very important in the deck that can burn through its resources pretty fast when resolving a lot of blue skies and purple nightfalls over the course of a game. Alright, so now we're going to go look at defensive cards and sort of removal cards next. So first off, I actually wanted to take a look at the removal this deck has because there is quite a absurd amount of removal that we can play in this deck, and they all do different things other than just removing cards, believe it or not. So of course the Gamma Seals, the Red Moon and the Yellow Star, the Instant Fusions, the Galaxy Cyclones, and the Dino Miscus. This is all a lot of built-in spot removal. We do have some core removal, which is really good. Spot removal most of the time is less favorable than core removal because oftentimes you're able to search that core removal, that in-engine removal, especially with cards like Red Moon being able to banish a Mekk-Knight to destroy a face-up monster in the column that is it in, which is not a once per turn effect. And same thing with Red Moon, it can banish a Mekk-Knight in your grave to be able to destroy a spell or trap on your opponent's side of the field in its column. So these guys have great built-in removal effects, and they are searchable, so it's definitely a plus. Now, Gamma Seal is incredible because it does 2 things for this deck. It clears an opponent's problem card, and it does it very well, of course, by tributing, but it gives us the freedom to be able to place this card wherever on their field we want, to be able to line it up with a set card they may have to give ourselves a free column alongside clearing a problem card. Now, same thing applies for cards like Instant Fusion and Galaxy Cyclone. And it's the reason why we're not playing Twin Twisters or Cosmic Cyclone in the main deck. because those are quick play spells, and normal spells play a huge role in this deck because we can set them and activate them in the same turn. Whereas like Instant Fusion, we can set, summon a purple Nightfall, flip it face up, go into a Thousand Eyes Restrict, and try to take a monster. And same thing with Galaxy Cyclone. We can set it, summon an Indigo, flip it face up, and try and destroy a back row that same turn that it was set. So these cards serve a lot of purpose in trying to remove monsters or spell and traps that may be preventing us from playing, attempt to sort of re-raise our ceiling, an attempt to sort of re-raise our ceiling and allow us to be able to play our own cards, because our Mekk-Knights need columns to go into, and normal spells help us do that because we can activate them in the same turn. They're a bit faster than, of course, trap cards. Now, again, this deck isn't always going to be able to go second, and some people are going to catch on, and they're going to try to make you go first, and a card like Paleozoic Dynamiscus definitely helps when you have to go first, because it is sort of that banishing removal that is really, really strong. It doesn't discriminate what it can remove. It can remove a spell or trap or a monster. So this card is absolutely fantastic for defense, and of course, the Paleos can come in clutch by chaining to any of the other traps that we play to summon itself onto the field to be able to make Link Spider, to be able to make more plays. So again, multiple roles these cards serve, which is absolutely fantastic, makes our deck much more versatile and better overall. Now we have just the reactive extender cards, and that is sort of cards like the Phantasmes. Really not anything else like it in the deck. When they go into a link, you get to draw some cards and put back other cards, so you can sort of reactive extend with this card. Then we have other forms of defense alongside that. We have our chainable defense and sort of our responsive defense. They have to be sort of activated at a specific window. We don't really have technically any responsive defense, which is really, really good. I guess you could argue Ash Blossom is the card that leans closest to the responsive defense, which means it has to be activated at a certain window. But of course, as you know, with DD Crow, the World Legacy Secret, and the Impermanence, they can be activated at any given point. They do not have to be activated when your opponent is using an effect or a certain summon is happening with these 6 cards right here, unlike Ash. So these cards are very, very versatile and when you can be able to use them. DD Crow is fantastic against pretty much every meta deck. Of course, Ash Blossom is incredible as well. These guys also serve the purpose as being able to normal summon them and link them into Almirage to be able to get you a column. World Legacy Secrets fits into this deck's gimmick absolutely 100%. It is basically a Call the Haunted that says when this card is activated, you can target one level 5 or higher monster in your graveyard, special summon it, and then when this card leaves the field, destroy that monster, and this does negate any opponent's monster effect that activates in the same column as a Mekk-Knight. So one little thing I'll mention is, of course, back talking about this card, it can move columns. So a lot of times you can discard this card off of your Morning Star, search this card out, flip it face up, and summon this card out to negate a monster effect. And if they try to use a monster effect in a different column, you can use this effect to move him over to negate that monster in that other column. So this card is absolutely incredible, and it also brings back any level 5 or higher, which allows you to bring back cards like Artifacts during your opponent's turn, which can shut them out of the game completely. And then, of course, Impermanence does conflict a little bit with the Phantasme, but it's still a fantastic card to play, especially if you do have to go first as well, just a bit more interruption. So that is all the roles I believe I wanted to talk about. And then, of course, the last card here, if I could find it, of course, is the Upstart Goblin. Basically, the role of that card is to just lower the deck count below 40 and make our deck more consistent overall. So that is it for the main deck. Now we'll go ahead and talk about the extra deck real fast, the side deck, and do a quick test hand. So first and foremost, I want to look at the main engine cards in the extra deck. That is, of course, first and foremost, the 3 copies of Mekk-Knight of the Morning Star. Just needs 2 monster, including a Mekk-Knight. And basically, if he's Link Summon, you can discard a Mekk-Knight monster or a World Legacy card to add 1 Mekk-Knight monster, 1 World Legacy card from your deck to your hand. This can search out your World Legacy Succession, your secrets, your key, and allow you to keep playing. So very much an extender in the extra deck. And it's a very defensive card too, because anytime a attack happens with a card while you control this, and if, let's say your opponent attacks a monster that is not in the same column as a Mekk-Knight, you take no battle damage, and that monster cannot be destroyed by battle. So this card is very, very defensive. And then the Spectrum Supreme. This card is amazing. Can attack directly if it's the only card in its column, and if this card is in the extra monster zone and points to no monsters, it cannot be destroyed by card effects, and also your opponent cannot target with card effects. So a very, very defensive card, and can also just go for game outright. It can be a bit of a win condition with that stipulation, the fact that it can't be targeted or destroyed. And then it can also extend on top of that. It basically says you can send one of the card you control in this card's column to the graveyard, to special summon a Mekk-Knight from your deck in defense position. So like this card can come in so clutch. You can use it to summon a Vrom from the deck and make a Vrom into Link Spider, and then go into Avramax from there. So these cards extend and are very defensive, which is amazing. And then I want to talk about the importance of the Link 1s in this deck. They help you, of course, make columns turn 1 if your opponent isn't giving you any cards to work with, which is really important because being able to play is kind of important. So Almirage, you can go into this off of Aperia or any of your hand traps. Of course, Link Karibo you can go into off of Thousand Eyes Restrict. And then Link Spider you can go into off of course, either the Dino-Miscus or the Avram. So these cards are absolutely amazing for that. They really serve no other purpose. Then we have some sort of generic removal by Nightmare Phoenix and Nightmare Unicorn. And then, of course, more removal in the form of the Thousand Eyes Restrict. And then just more oppressive, just game-winning cards in the form of Avramax, Borreload, and Boral Sword. Cards that are incredibly hard to deal with, cards that deal with incredibly hard to deal with problem cards, and cards that allow us to go for game. And then the last card I'm playing is the one Dingirsu, because again, this is defensive, can also be a form of removal, non-targeting, non-destruction removal, and we play a lot of level 8s in the deck, so you can make this card pretty easily if need be. So now, I want to talk about the side deck real quick. I'll put a mock side deck up on the screen. So some things you could side deck out are some of the traps. If you know you're going to be able to go second per se, if you lose game 1 and you really do want to go second, you can side out easily a copy of the Dino-Miscus or a Galaxy Cyclone. You can also side out cards like Phantasme, again, if it's not favorable in that matchup. Things I would not side out are cards like, you know, your purple, your blue sky. Green Horizon is a card that you could probably side out in some matches. World Legacy Key can go as well if you're not playing against any back row heavy decks, because this card only turns off traps in whatever zone a Mekk-Knight is in. So if it's not a trap heavy matchup, this card can go out very easily. An Instant Fusion can go out as well, or side out a single copy of Impermanence, or maybe the DD Crows, those can go as well. Not that much room for side decking in here, but the thing I find most potent side deck in this deck is simply the Artifact Engine. In most cases, that can get the job done. Of course, alongside cards like Evenly or Dark Ruler, Twin Twister, whatever it may be. So yeah, now we'll go ahead and do a quick test hand. All right, so I've done a quick pile shuffle and some more shuffling and past that. Let's go ahead and draw into 5 cards, but we're also going to do this as a going second test hand as well. So we'll see what we can pull off. So there's our starting 5. So we can go ahead and say perhaps they have performed a link summon of at least 1 link. So that allows us to draw into 2 cards and be able to put back 1. So with a hand like this, I'm probably going to put back the key. Now, of course, this is dependent on the matchup. If they're not playing too many back row, this card can go back very easily. And if they have performed a link summon, obviously it could be a deck like either Orcust, Salamangreat, of course, or Sky Striker. Most decks which aren't too trap heavy, of course, Salamangreat is the exception. If we were playing against Salamangreat, we'd want to keep the key hands down. But if we were playing against Striker or Orcust, and we're not sensing like a Babble or anything like that, then of course the key can go back. So just sort of some insights for basically what we might be playing against. So the Phantasme will go through, and then we'll draw for turn, drawing into a copy of the Dino-Miscus, which isn't too bad, because again, we can use this card as, you know, just being able to set to get ourselves a Mekk-Knight on the board. Now, I think I'm going to just go ahead and start with the Upstart Goblin and be able to draw 1 card, and that draws us into an Aperia. We'll use the Aperia now to draw into another card. We end up drawing into a DD Crow. Now, at this point, I'm probably going to link into that Almirage. Now, depending if they have given us a column or not, we may not need to go into the Almirage, but let's say we don't really have a column to work with at the moment. Granted, although they will have a link monster per se. So we'll actually go ahead and summon this here, because we want to keep this zone open. So at this point, again, if we use the World Legacy's memory, we're going to be locked into just Mekk-Knights, which isn't too great, especially if we're trying to go for game. But again, it all depends on what they have for the most part. So to start, we'll go ahead and summon out the Indigo, of course, after we set a card. Actually, not the Indigo. I'll start by just summoning the Green Horizon. And then from here, we'll link these 2 off into a copy of the Morningstar. Now, again, we don't have to use the Almirage, so technically we could have just normal the Aperia, set this over here, and summon our Mekk-Knight into this zone. But again, if this was something like Salamangreat and they had a Sunlight Wolf, we might not want to do that. So again, it all depends. This is an optional card to make because we do have another Aperia in our hand, and next turn, if we need to be able to link into this, we're going to want that card in the extra deck. So probably best to not link into that immediately. So we'll set this card over here into whatever link monster they have, and then on the summon, we'll go ahead and use his effect to be able to discard the Indigo Eclipse, and then be able to search out a copy of a World Legacy card. So we'll add Secret, since we're probably not going to be able to do a full OTK this given turn. But what we can do now is play the copy of Memory and go get the Purple Nightfall. And then Purple Nightfall is going to allow us to summon it and then use this effect to banish it till the next standby phase to add another Mekk-Knight. We'll add a copy of Blue Sky. And then we'll summon the Blue Sky here, and let's say we get to at least search one. So we'll add another copy of Indigo. Just like that. And now if we have another card to set, which we do because we have the Secret, we can get this on board for more damage. So we can set this here, special summon it, and move it over if we want to, just to make more room, and also not take up too many zones, because when we bring a card back off the secrets, we want to be able to put the Mekk-Knight into sort of a unique zone that a Mekk-Knight isn't already in case where this Morningstar is. So as it stands, we have the protection for our Phantasme, which is nice. We also have the DD Crow, and we also have the Dino-Miscus and these secrets for next turn. So overall, that was a pretty solid hand. Even if we had to go first with that hand, we could have done it 100% because we were still able to see Aperia and this card, which is just enough to have a really solid first turn board. And another thing to note, if you can help it, usually trying to discard this off of the Morningstar is really, really good because it'll set up the secret, because this is the best card usually to revive off the secrets, which is amazing. And then if you already have a card like, secrets in hand, you can often add just the Succession or another Memory, because you can sort of do the same thing. Use the secrets to revive this to get the double negate, and then you can use the Memory to be able to summon another Mekk-Knight to get a third or even a fourth monster negate as well. So yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. And as always, guys, WinnerKill signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one.